Thank you for joining us today at JALT International 2020. Please welcome Dr. Charles Browne. He will be presenting on utilizing free online tools to teach vocabulary. Please go ahead.
Okay. Hi everybody. Yes, it feels very weird to to be doing a JALT National via Zoom, but this is 2020 is one of those years, unfortunately. Um, it's great to be here. Great to see you all. This is I guess a bit unusual session because when I'm normally doing a TNT session, it's very hands-on, and we put people in groups and we're working with online tools and things like that. But for a couple of reasons, we can't do it exactly that way this year. So obviously, number one, because we're using Zoom, but number two, I just found out my iPhone updated to iOS 14, and some of the apps I've built I can't actually share live with you. There's something with incompatibility between Zoom and the latest version of the iPhone. So I'm sure it'll be worked out in a couple of days, but not for today's session. So for a lot of this, we'll have to be doing PowerPoint and screenshots for the iPhone, Android apps. Other stuff I can demo live, and maybe we can have a little bit of interactivity there. I've also created a number of breakout discussions so we can talk as we go along. Maybe some of you know, maybe not all of you, but I've spent quite a long time working in the area of second language vocabulary acquisition and also in online learning, and been pretty active in both of those things. And today, what I'm going to be doing is introducing you to the word lists, the corpus-based word lists that I've developed, the 7 so far. And then introducing you to the various online tools and resources that either we've developed to take advantage of those word lists, or other free ones made by others that we're taking advantage of. So hopefully there'll be some things here for you that will be interesting and useful. Let's see, okay, we've got a chat note. Let me take a look. Okay, that's just a note to everybody. If you have questions as you go along, I personally, I mean, with such a small number of people, I don't mind at all if if you unmute yourself. I was thinking there might be a lot more people, and that's why I wanted to create the breakout rooms. But it looks like we only have about 12 people here. So, if at any time you have a question or a comment, you can either unmute yourself and ask, or you can also put it in the chat box. And if I don't notice who's hosting, Robert, is it? Yeah, could you, if you could just monitor the chat box and then let me know if somebody's asked a question, and I'll try to address it. After maybe you just ask out loud, you can interrupt,
Okay,
and at the
sure.
appropriate time. Okay, so let me get to my PowerPoint. Oh boy, let me see. How can I do this? I think what I need to do is go to the first slide, make it big enough. Okay, and all right, let's see if this works. So, okay, now I'm gonna this just as a beginning part. That's kind of weird. Okay, there's the PowerPoint. And I think I'm sharing now. Can you all see me? Can you see the
Yes,
PowerPoint?
yeah, we see the
And
PowerPoint.
what I need to do is to just so I can see your lovely faces, I want to open up the next window so I can, let's see, hold on a second. Zoom. Oh, this is weird. For some reason, I have 2 screens, and I'm usually getting hold on a second. This is just one of those weird little hiccups. I just need to find my other Zoom screen. Hold on a second. I'm going to stop the screen share for a moment. And let's see. There's move to LG fine. That might be it. Okay. This is not going to do it either. For some reason, I've lost you guys. I'm going to have to just pretend I can see your faces. Let me share screen, and I'll just look at my PowerPoint and go that way. All right. Okay. All right. So, okay. So Basically the presentation is called utilizing free online tools to teach vocabulary. You can see on the right hand side several links. I have quite a few free resources related to the word list, related to extensive reading and extensive listening, and several other things as well. I'll share links as we go through. The main one that you need to know is newgeneralservicelist.org. That's the first one. Most of the other things can be accessed from there. And you can also see where I'm working right now, which is at Meiji Gakuin University in Tokyo. Unfortunately, I picked 2020 as my year to go on sabbatical, so it's not. This has not really been a great year for me. Okay, let's see if I can get my PowerPoint to go to the next slide. This is bizarre. Okay, so why is not my slideshow? Play from the start. Okay. All right. Okay. So, all right. Are you seeing just the main? Are you just seeing the main slide, or are you also seeing the next one?
We see presenter view.
Yeah. So you're you're seeing both. Okay. And this is odd too, isn't it? So how can I get rid of this?
There should be a swap up in the top.
Yeah, swap displays. Okay. There you go. Is that okay now?
Yes. Now we see only what you want us to see.
Okay. Well, that means I have to turn off my camera because I don't want you guys to see me. Okay. So this is just a slide to show that as a result of COVID, basically everybody is online this year, and this is a very different world we live in, and online teaching, online resources, what we're doing pedagogically is very important this year more than ever. I like this quote: technology is not going to replace teachers, but teachers who use technology well will probably replace those who do not. And I think that's what we have to be thinking about is teaching ourselves how to use technology in pedagogically sound ways. And this has been my experience. I've been in Japan about 30 years, and back in the 80s I was working with Sony Language Labs, and they were using technology in a very poor way. It wasn't pedagogically based, and this is one of the reasons that language labs are out of favor, and why audiolingual method is out of favor. So we really have to think about pedagogy before we start utilizing online tools. And this is really for me, I'm always thinking about this. So for me, the two main problems that I'm concerned with, based on my 3 decades of experience here in Japan, is number one, that Japanese students don't have enough vocabulary, and the vocabulary they do have is actually not the right vocabulary for second language learners. And then kind of a corollary problem is that the reading materials that they're using in classroom is way above their level. And I think it's kind of a double punch. And I think this is one of the reasons why students, the more they study, the less confidence, the less motivation, the less they like English. I think this is a result of, primarily of these two problems. But what I want to do is, just even before I get, dig too deeply into my stuff, is to talk a little bit about what you are doing with vocabulary and reading skills development. I mean, that's basically what this workshop is. And so, for me, I think about vocabulary a lot, and I have my own ideas about what the difficulties are. But I'm wondering what you're experiencing and what you're thinking about in terms of this. So let me stop the screen share for a moment. And okay, now let me get out of. This is sort of locked in. Okay, here we go. And this is good. The breakout room will give me a minute to kind of sort out my viewer problems. Okay, so what I'm doing right now is in the chat room, in the chat function, the chat part of the Zoom, I just typed in this question, and it looks like we don't have that many people. So why don't we just make 2 breakout rooms, and then from there we can just talk about this question, maybe come back together in maybe 3 or 4 minutes. So let me do breakout rooms, 2 rooms, and we'll go, and I will join the rooms in just a moment. Okay. And this will give me a second to sort out where my extra Zoom screen is. There it is. Okay. Now we got it. Okay. Oh, do you need to be assigned to a breakout room, Larry? Let me.
Yes, yeah. The
Okay.
only trouble is I've got an appointment and I've got to run, but I wanted to record the session because I'm so interested in this topic.
No worries at all. So I'm throwing you into breakout room 2 for the moment, and you can leave whenever you need to. And yeah, absolutely. Feel free to record, and hopefully there'll be something here you can use.
Okay,
I'm
thank
going
you.
to jump into 2 as well.
All right.
You're still recording this part, by the way. I'm not sure if you wanted to pause it.
Charlie, your mic's on mute.
Yeah. When you go back to the meeting rooms, they auto-mute you.
Okay, thanks. Well, it's good. I was kind of talking to myself anyway, so it's probably better that we didn't record that. Okay, so let me see if I can share a screen, and let's see if this works any better. Breakout. Let's see. Oh wow, that's weird. Okay, something new every day. Microsoft PowerPoint. Let's try that. Okay. You can see the PowerPoint now, right? Okay.
Yes.
And I've got your screen too. This is what I wanted. I wanted to be able to see everybody while I'm talking. Okay. So I think all of us are experiencing some difficulty with teaching vocabulary and reading and listening skills development. I think they're kind of connected to each other, and certainly this is one of the things that I spend a lot of time thinking about and worrying about. So let me see if I can go to the next slide. One of the problems we have is that the English language is just so enormous. There's the largest dictionary of English is called the Oxford English Dictionary, the OED, and the OED has 600,000 word families. So it's an enormous number. The good news is that most students of English, their target is, they say, well, I want to be like a native speaker. I want to speak English as good as a native speaker. Well, native speakers don't know 600,000. So the good news is that the average native speaker only knows about 5% of the English language. The average adult native English speaker who's graduated from college knows about 30,000 words, so about 5% of the language. So, instantly that means we're already winnowing out 95% of the English language. But that's the good news. But the bad news is that even after 10 or 12 years of studying English, Japanese students just don't have that many words. So, it's somewhere between 2,000 and 3,000 words by the time they're in college. And so that's, you're talking about maximum of maybe 10% of the size of a native speaker after 12 years of study. So that's 10% for 12 years. To get to 100%, you have to multiply that by 10 and take another 100 years, right? So, you know, clearly Japanese students don't have enough vocabulary words, and this is one of the problems. The other problem is that the English reading materials are far too difficult. So if we say 2,000 words, you know, we've got these 2,000 words that Japanese college students know. With 2,000 words, if you try and read Time magazine, you know, you would get about 80% coverage. So it sounds pretty high. It's only 2,000 out of 600,000 words. If you know the 2,000 most high frequency words, you get about 81% coverage for Time magazine. If you go to a newspaper like the Japan Times, you actually get higher coverage. You get about 85% because newspapers tend to use easier English than magazines like Time magazine. Time tends to be a little bit difficult. But this brings me to the second problem, which is that Japanese high school textbooks, you're not getting 80% or 85% coverage. You're only getting 70 or 75% coverage for the most popular Japanese high school textbooks. So that means that it's literally harder to read a Japanese high school English textbook than it is to read Japan Times or Time magazine, and this is a big problem. So, you know, 80, 85%, 75%, all those numbers sound really high, but what we know from vocabulary research is that you need much higher than that to be able to read and guess from context, to be able to read and understand. So you need somewhere in a range of 90% is the very minimum, but a lot of people are talking about 95, 98% for reading for pleasure levels. So, you know, we need to get them at the very minimum above 90%. And so that's, you know, the solution is, you know, I think, you know, word lists, you know, well-designed word lists. So the NGSL project, that's the new general service list is NGSL. The new general service list project that I've been working on these past 10 years or so is basically designed to solve this problem. It's about shortcuts. It's trying to make very short lists of high frequency words that can help students in various genres to achieve the level of independent learning. So what I want to do is to take you through some of my word lists. I've got 7 of them, and these are all open source free word lists that you can download from my website. So I want to give you a brief introduction to these word lists, and then the rest of the presentation is introducing you to various tools that we've developed so you can take advantage of these word lists. And that includes assessment tools, learning tools, and analytical tools, which we'll get to a little bit later. Okay, so the original, well, ours is called the new general service list. But before I talk about the new general service list, I kind of have to tell you about the old one. The original general service list, GSL, was published first in 1953. And actually represented about 17 years of work. It started as in 1936 as the interim report on vocabulary selection, and just about so many of the famous linguists of the day, Thorndike, Horn, Palmer, who was based in Japan for a long time, Michael West, Maki, all these people worked on it, and it was funded by the Carnegie Corporation. And what they were able to do was actually remarkable in the day. They created a 2.5 million word corpus, which by today's standards is very small, but today we do all of our corpus work on computers. They were able to do all of this work by hand without the aid of computers. That's why it took 17 years. And they made word lists that combined objective and subjective criteria, and in the end came up with a list of about 2,200 word families known as the General Service List, which is about 3,600 lemmas. We'll talk about that later. And those 3,600 words gives about 80% coverage in general text. So it was a list that was very popular for 50 or 60 years. And I was using it, you know, I did all of my master's, my graduate work under Paul Nation, a very famous vocabulary researcher in New Zealand, and he introduced me to this list. So I was using it in the classroom for years, but as I used it more and more in the classroom, I realized that there were some problems with the list, and that's what led me to want to improve it. So the new general service list, which I'll introduce to you in a minute, basically there were a couple of problems with the old list, and we wanted to address them. One is that the corpus of the original GSL was way too small, and with a very small corpus size, you don't have good frequency counts above 2,000 words. So we needed a larger corpus. Also, the corpus itself, the old GSL corpus, was very, very old, more than 100 years old. Most of the texts were 100, 150 years old. And because English changes over time, the words we use change over time, that needed to be addressed as well. So we needed to make a more modern corpus. And again, the 80% threshold, the 80% coverage that the old GSL provided was not enough. We wanted to get our students, to at least 90%, to that level where they could read independently. And so those were kind of the three targets. And if you look, these are just some examples of words in the second 1,000 words of the old GSL. Remember, the old GSL and the new GSL, the one that I made, these are supposed to represent the most important high frequency words for second language learners. So, think about your learners, words like plow, mill, spade, cultivator. How many of those words do your students encounter on a daily basis? Probably none of them, right? Because our society is no longer really based on agriculture. But 150 years ago, the answer might have been, yeah, these might have been popular words 150 years ago. Sailor, oar, vessel, merchant. 150 years ago, yes, but maybe not so much now. The religion words, because a lot of, even in Japan, I'm working at Meiji Gakuin, a Christian university. I used to work at Aoyama Gakuin University, a Christian university. And a lot of the schools of higher education were formed by Christian missionaries. And so a lot of the texts from several hundred years ago that were used in education were religion-oriented texts. So these words, kingdom, God, mercy, bless, they were more frequent in daily life back then compared to now. Telegraph, chimney, gaiety, shilling. You can see that we needed to update the list. So this is really what. Whoa! How do we get to Toeic? Let's see. Where is this? I think I'm missing a slide here. Okay, there we go. Okay, so the new general service list, what you can see there in this slide, 600,000 words in the English language, that's on the left. 30,000 is about what a native speaker knows. The 2,800 words in the new general service list gives students an average of 90 to 92% coverage for most newspapers, magazines, and texts that they would encounter. So for general English, it offers very high coverage, and this is for written materials. For spoken materials, like if some of my graduate students have done research on how the new general service list covers things like TV shows like Friends or movies like Star Wars, and the answer is even higher. It's like 95, 97% coverage for listening materials. So it offers pretty high coverage for a very small number of words. The corpus was based on, we got full access to the Cambridge English corpus, which is a 2 billion word corpus. And in the end, we took about 10%, a little more than 10% of that corpus. We picked subsections that we thought were relevant for second language learners. And at 273 million words, it's about 100 times larger corpus than the original GSL corpus, which meant that we were able to get very good frequencies up to about the 30,000 word level. So there's a lot of data useful for a lot of different people that we were able to get from this. Let's see. Okay, this is just this is an article that came out in JALT's The Language Teacher just a few months ago by Kramer and Iwamoto. And what they did is they looked at coverage of the new general service list for senior high school entrance exams and also the National Center test. And they found that on senior high school entrance exams, 98.1% coverage of the senior high school entrance exam with only the first 1,000 words of the NGSL. So astonishingly high coverage. And they were also able to find that it gave 95.2% coverage for the national center exam if you knew all 2,800 words. So they say only 95%. I think that's actually pretty good, 95% coverage for the center test. So the reason I put this slide up is just to show you that even though the target of this list is to be useful for second language learners all around the world for general English, it actually has pretty good coverage for not just for general English, but also for test English. A lot of people say, oh, no, we can't use the NGSL because, we have to focus on test English. Well, look here. I mean, high school entrance exam and national center test, the NGSL is providing very, very high coverage. And the reason this is possible, how are we able to get such high coverage with only 2,800 words? That's because of a mathematical principle known as Ziff's law. And what you can see here is that, basically what Ziff's law is that high frequency words occur extremely frequently and low frequency words you almost never ever meet. And so what you can see here, the if you know just the most frequent word of the English language, it's the word the. I've just used it about 5 or 6 times. The most frequent word in the English language is the word the. 7% of all the words you're ever going to encounter in written English. If you know just the top 10, about 25%. Top 100, about half of all the words that would be in any book, magazine, or newspaper. And you get to 2,800 words, which is my list, we're about 92% coverage and so on. But if you look down to like 8,000 word level, 8,000 word level gives you 98% coverage. And that means the remaining 592,000 words only gives you 2% coverage. Okay, so even in a table like this, it's not really easy that easy to see or to visualize. So I've got one more slide, and in this slide, what you can see is this is a 10 million word sample of the Cambridge English corpus. And what you can see is if you know the first 2,000 most frequent words in that sample, you get 83% coverage. And if you know the next 2,000 words, you get an additional 5%, so a total of 88% coverage. And then another 3%, another 2%, another 1%. So if you draw a line, if you draw an imaginary line from the top of the blue box to the top of the green to the top of the yellow, this is about the first 10,000 words. So that's the first 10,000. You can imagine for the remaining 590,000, it's a ultra flat line that it just goes down and down and down. This is that line from the blue box to all of the other boxes, that's called the Zephyian curve. And what it means, for us, what it means for us as language teachers, what it means for students is that the high frequency words are ultra important. Those blue words, if you don't know them, if you don't know all of them, if you don't know every single one of them, you are disadvantaging yourself as a language learner because those blue words occur everywhere. And so my NGSL list, my colleagues, I should say, the list that we've developed is, these are the core foundational, everywhere in your life, everywhere in students' daily life, those are the words that they're going to see and the words that they need to be focusing on as step one. But the way I've designed these, I've designed 7 word lists, and we've designed several of them. The yellow one, the yellow list, if you look on the very far left, that's the core daily vocabulary. That's the 2,800 words that every student really needs to learn. And that's the new general service list. But as a second step, we've created these words that are boxed in green. And these are kind of special purpose vocabulary, ESP, English for specific purpose vocabulary lists. And for many students, that can be a very good step too. So hold on just a second. So this slide here, for example, what you can see here is that if we're looking at the first several thousand words of English, the high frequency words, the first 2,000 or 3,000 words, that should be step one for everybody. Mid-frequency vocabulary is a weakness for most second language learners. They're very weak at the 3,000 to 9,000 word level. And that normally would be step 2 for everybody. And then after that, the ultra low frequency vocabulary would be step 3. Unfortunately, in Japan, Japanese students are jumping to step 3 without ever learning step 2 at all, and step 1 only halfway. So this leads to problems. But what I'm saying here with those green lists is that whoops, let's see if so with the green lists is basically I'm saying step 2 should be learning some of these very tight, well-developed special purpose vocabularies before going into learning mid-frequency vocabulary. So we'll come back to that in a second. But to talk about what I wanted to do is have another breakout for a few minutes and talk about special purpose vocabulary. And I already heard that one teacher here is teaching CLIL, so I imagine that would be one that would be related to this. But do your students have any specific learning goals beyond general English? And if so, how is special purpose vocabulary handled in your school, or in your textbook, or in your class? And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy and paste this into the chat for this is for discussion 2. And then what I'm going to do is we have maybe a few different people, so I'm just going to recreate, and let's make 3 rooms. Okay, there we go. Okay, so what I'd like to before I put us in rooms, do you have any questions so far? Let's do it that way. I mean, let's go in the rooms afterwards. But does anybody have any questions that you'd like to ask, or points that you'd like to discuss? Okay, so something from Sarah here. Let's see. Which list is considered the best to use as a base to create a vocabulary list? Webb and Dang have claimed their essential word list has the most coverage. Why would phlegmas be used to build instead of lemmas? How do you determine which words are best for second language learners? Yeah, that's actually a lot to unfold right here. I would say that a word list is really only as good as the corpus it's based on. So if you want, if you're trying to create a list to help second language learners, then you need to have a corpus and subcorpora inside the corpus that are a good representation of the kind of English that they'll be exposed to. And this is how you sort of make a decision as to whether or not that word list would be useful for your learners, is whether or not the makeup of the corpus is good and is it carefully constructed. And talking about the difference between lemmas and phlegmas and word families, I think a lot of us are moving in the direction of lemmas, modified lexemes, and phlegmas. There's different ways of describing it as away from word families. And the reason is because there's a lot of research that shows that students are not learning word families. So we, take, for example, the word accept, accepts, accepting, acceptable, unacceptable, those 5 words. The word family approach would assume that if the student knows the word accept, that they know all 5 of those other forms instantaneously, and that they would associate acceptable and unacceptable with the word accept. But the research just shows that's not true. And one of the co-creators of all of my word lists is Dr. Brent Culligan. And Brent's research when he was a PhD student at Temple was on answering this specific question. And what he found is that accept is learned significantly earlier than acceptable and unacceptable. And it's much later, after much more language development, that students make the connection that acceptable and unacceptable are part of accept and accepts. And so there's data. It's a data-driven approach. What we've found is that the word family approach, it's nice and neat, from the point of view of being a theorist, and even being a teacher, but it's not how students actually learn. So these other approaches where they're breaking apart the word, the reason for doing that is to try and be more representative of what's happening in the classroom.
I see, thanks.
Other questions or points before we jump into the breakout? Let me let's jump into the breakout room and you can ask your question there. I'll try and join at least 1 or 2 rooms and then come back. We'll come back. Let's just do this for 5 minutes and then come back.
Hello, welcome. I'm not sure, Kanita, if you're coming back from the breakout room or recently just joined. If you just joined, everyone is in a breakout room, but it is ending in about a minute or so. You can join the breakout room by clicking more and then going off to the breakout room, or you can just wait. Like I said, I think it's about a minute left before they'll all be back. I'm not sure if you're trying to speak to me or not. Right now you're on mute. Of course, if you're speaking to someone nearby, that's completely fine. Just thought I'd point it out. So it looks like you're moving.
What I'm going to do is I'm going to try and pick up the pace a little bit so we can get through the introduction to the word list as quickly as possible to get you to some of the online tools. What I was saying in the discussion group, breakout room number 1, is that if your students are going on to study in English-speaking countries, if they're going on to academic study in an English-speaking country, the new academic word list is a very solid, good choice. There are other academic word lists out there, and all of them are very good, but we designed our own because we wanted it to fit perfectly with the new general service list. So there's no overlap at all with the new general service list, and these are the next most frequent words that you need to learn for academic settings. If you learn 960 academic words along with the 2800 NGSL words, you get 92% coverage of academic English. The corpus is what is it, 288 million words in total. 248 of it is from the Cambridge English academic subsection, but we also put in 3 million words of oral academic English, split down the middle between British academic English and academic spoken English and American academic spoken English. We also created a corpus of 100 of the top selling academic textbooks. So it's a pretty good corpus and offers pretty good coverage. Significantly more coverage, in fact, than the old general service list combined with the old academic word list, the very good list by Avril Coxhead. Those two together offer about 87% coverage. Our two together are offering about 92. So it's pretty efficient list, and definitely recommend it if your students have that kind of a purpose. We've also created a really, I think, excellent list for students who have to pass the Toeic test. This is known as the Toeic service list, the TSL, and we created a 1.5 million word corpus of Toeic texts. And if you study the 2800 NGSL words and the 1200 Toeic words, you're getting virtual 99%, almost 100% coverage of the Toeic test. And that's an astonishing number. We shouldn't actually be able to get such a high number. The only reason we're able to do it is because Toeic is test English, not real English. It's said to be a test of business English. I would disagree, and I think there's good anecdotal evidence that this is the case. The Rakuten example, for example, their TOEIC program was a complete failure. So TOEIC, it's a high stakes exam, and that's why we made the list. A lot of our students have to take and pass that exam, so we wanted to help them with that. You also should note that the NGSL, just the NGSL alone, 2,800 words, offers 94% coverage for the TOEIC test. So the NGSL is a fantastic starting point for TOEIC preparation. And this is just a very quick sample of some of the things that are in the TOEIC service list. You can see most of this information on the webpage, so you can go back and look slower later. But at the same year that we published the TOEIC service list, I think that was 2016, we also published a list called the Business Service List. Whoops, okay, I'm sorry, my slides are slightly out of order. This is I'm not sure if any of you know much about the TOEIC, but the TOEIC, the format of the TOEIC exam was changed 2 years ago in 2018, and we published our list in 2016. So we wanted to make sure that the coverage figures were still accurate. And so what we did is we created a small corpus from the 8 official practice tests that ETS released, and we analyzed our word list and looked at the coverage against the official versions of the new version of the TOEIC, and we found 98.5% coverage. So it's still almost 99% coverage. So it's quite good even today. But we also published the business service list. And, if TOEIC is supposed to test business English, why would we make a business service list? The reason is because we think that the TOEIC is not very helpful for real business situations. Rakuten employees who were studying TOEIC were not able to function in management positions. They were not able to function when they went abroad. They all had high TOEIC scores, but they weren't doing good in the real world. So we published a list known as the Business Service List, 1,700 words. Combined with NGSL, step 1 is the yellow words, step 2 is the green words, 97% coverage for most real business English situations. The British National Corpus, business subsections, 8 million words, business text from the internet, 9 million words, business magazines, 25 million words, business textbooks, 21 million words. Pretty decent corpus with pretty decent coverage. This is the overlap between some of those word lists because somebody asked before, but no, you wouldn't be studying any of these lists at the same time. Step 1 would be NGSL, and then step 2 would be one of these SP word lists. About a month ago, we published another list called the Fitness Word List. This was related to a consulting project I was doing. And basically, it's for a chain of gyms that was opening in Japan, and they wanted to conduct all activities in English. They wanted it to be an English medium gym, and they wanted to identify the high frequency words for fitness English. And so what I did is I created a 10 million word corpus, looking at various fitness materials, fitness videos, fitness, texts. This is a more detailed version. You can also see this on the website. And what we found was, about 98% coverage. We got 98% coverage with only 600 additional words. So 2,800 NGSL words and 600 fitness words. We're getting very, very high coverage. So another very useful SP word list, if you're doing anything with fitness English. We also had a request from a university down in Kyushu. They had a program that was focused on spoken English. And so they said the NGSL was very nice, but they noticed that there were 3 subsections in the NGSL. This is the corpus for the NGSL, 273 million words I showed you before. In those, there's 3 subsections: radio English, spoken, unscripted spoken English, and TV English, and they wanted the frequencies for that because their program was focused on spoken English. So we recalculated and published a list known as the NGSL-S, with the S being for spoken. And what we found was quite remarkable. To get to 90% coverage with the NGSL, that's on the bottom, there's 2,800 words in the NGSL, but we're hitting 90% coverage at about 2,100 word level. But with the spoken, if you're looking only at spoken English, you only need 718 words. So our NGSL NGSL list, NGSL-S list is 718 words. So for spoken English, you can get to 90% coverage with only 700 words. So it's a pretty useful list if you're focusing on spoken English. The final list, and this was also just released about a week ago, is our new list of children's English, kids English, known as the New Dolce list. And this is up on our website for download as well. This is an update, again, of a very old word list. The old Dolce list was published in 1936 by Edward Dolce. And the original Dolce list was used to help native speakers, native speaker children, to build sight recognition of words they already knew. So we wanted to create an updated list based on a more modern corpus for non-native speakers to build the basic understanding of the words that they would encounter in EFL context. And our corpora right now is about 2.5 million words. You can see there's graded readers in there, there's textbooks in there, there's picture books. We also even took a large selection of children's YouTube videos. We tried to pick the top sites. There's a site called Statista, which has statistics for what were the most popular YouTube sites for children, and we put the corpus in for that. We found only 129 function words covered more than 50% of the corpus. And the old Dolce list was supposedly offered 70% coverage for 315 words. There were no empirical studies for that, but that's just a claim they made. But we were getting about 78% coverage at the same 315 word level. But as you know, 78% is not enough. So we expanded the size of our list to 875 words. And that gets children to 90% vocabulary threshold. Okay, so this is an introduction to the 7 word lists. And, all of these word lists are open source and free. You can download them from my website, newgeneralservicelist.org. They're made available under the least restrictive Creative Commons license, which means that you can download them, you can use them, you can sell them if you want. The only thing you have to do is just cite our names, so we just put a proper citation, and how to do that is on our website under the FAQ section. But on this website is much more than just the word lists. What we've done is we spent the past 5 or 6 years creating all kinds of resources to help you to utilize the word list. So some of the free word lists, the free resources include downloadable versions of the word lists, definitions. I'll show you actually the screenshot. So you can download each word list in the head word form, which is just the head words. You can download in what's called the modified lexeme format. It is the lemmatized list. There's also, what we've done is we've taken the time to write out definitions in easy English for every one of the words. Some of the word lists have it in Japanese as well. So you can use those definitions if you like, or you can modify them if you want. We've also tried to provide the statistical data that we generated from our corpus so that researchers can analyze from it. There's also a good growing number of research articles published on our word list, and so we try and keep track of that. I haven't updated in a couple of months, but as of 6 months ago, there's probably 20 or 30 articles, and they're listed there for you to look at. The latest resource, the latest online resource that we've developed is one I actually just want to show you right in a moment. And this is an interactive NGSL glossary that includes in-context video concordancing. And this is through a site called Uglish. Is anybody familiar with Uglish? Have you used it? I love this site. I developed something that looks like this, a little bit like this, for English Central. I helped English Central in their early years to teach English through authentic video. And this is sort of the same idea, but it's an open source version of it. So let me stop the share screen. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to a different share screen. Let me just, I want to go to a live website here. Let's see, new general service list. Okay. So this is the main website for our word list and for all of our online tools. And if you look on the left-hand side, you see new general service list under tools, NGSL tools. If you scroll down a little bit, these are some of the many free online tools we have. But down the last one, this is our newest one. This is called the Ngsl Glossary. And if you click on that, this is sort of an explanation of what the NGSL glossary is. But if there's an HTML link here, and this will take you right to the glossary. So what you've got here is our word list. This is the NGSL, but I think we have it up for several of the other ones as well. And you know, the NGSL has been alphabetized here. You can see the frequencies per million, the part of speech, an easy definition, and then if we click on pronunciation, that will take you to the resource. So if we take, for example, I think I used the word acceptable before. Let's click on acceptable. Let's see what happens if we can get this. Okay, accept. Whoops. You know what? I think I forgot to, you're not going to hear the sound because I forgot to, let me unshare screen for just a second. Let me share screen again, but let me check off share computer sound. Okay. And now let's go back to it again, and I think this will work. Okay, so whoops, are you seeing the Uglish? Is this?
Yes, but we're also seeing your desktop.
Oh, okay, thanks. Yeah, it looked like it wasn't circled the way I wanted it to. I must have shared the wrong one. Let me just give me just a second. Let me do it one more time. Safari acceptable. That's it. Okay, I think that's the one. Okay, now we got it. Okay, so what you saw was a glossary for the NGSL, and it had like the definition, the part of speech, frequency information, and then a link for pronunciation. So this is basically a pronunciation resource, but I think it's actually much more than that. So let's imagine that your students are just learning the word acceptable. What you can see here, it says how to pronounce acceptable in English, 1 out of 7,653. That means they've pulled together 7,000 plus examples of the word acceptable used in authentic English. So let's see what they've got. I've not looked at this, so hopefully it won't be too weird, but let's try. Let's just go here.
More widely acceptable as psychotherapeutic tools for people with PTSD, but
okay.
Management. You got to produce acceptable results, whatever the setting is, academic, business, government. You got.
And it is a much more acceptable, less disruptive approach than starting over and trying to impose a.
And not my focus, it felt safe and acceptable.
Okay, so what I've done is I've just run you through just 4 or 5 examples, and you can see how they're just clipped together, and you can almost effortlessly give multiple examples. Now, the reason I like this resource so much is that there's quite a bit of research on incidental vocabulary learning, and the research on incidental vocabulary learning often quotes the number of exposures that you need to a new word as being very high. In other words, if you wanted to learn the word acceptable from just incidental reading or incidental listening, the research says that you would have to be exposed to acceptable 15 to 30 times, somewhere between 15 and 30 times before you would actually learn the word. And it's just very difficult to be exposed to the word that many times in different contexts. So it takes years for that kind of learning to really amount to a significant amount of learning. But here, I think what we're doing with Uglish is we're kind of fast starting that. I've used this kind of site. English Central used to be like this. Uglish is free and does the same thing. But if you if you introduce your students to words they don't know, you'll find that after 5 or 10 exposures, you just hear throughout the classroom the oh, I got it. It just happens almost like effortlessly. And it's just there's something about giving students multiple exposures in multiple different contexts. The human mind sort of works like a, it likes to solve puzzles, and there's something about this that sort of helps to fast start learning. But I think there's a lot of different ways we might be able to utilize this website and this resource, but we just decided to start as a starting point to put up a glossary for all of our word lists with direct links to this Uglish website. So what I'm going to do, let me go back to the PowerPoint again. Let's see if I can do that. Let's see, latest resource, Microsoft PowerPoint. Okay, all right. So, okay, so we're in the PowerPoint. Let me just go to the next one. So what I want to do for our next breakout discussion is to take a look at the Uglish website in your group, and then maybe, play with it a little bit, and then brainstorm how you might be able to, you or your students might be able to use it for vocabulary development. There's a link both to the Uglish website as well as to our Uglish glossary for the NGSL, which I will put into the chat room, and you can utilize that. I'm not so, there's a lot of other resources we probably are not going to get to because there's only 15 minutes left. But, the NGSL, we have things like, it's up on, the NGSL is up on Quizlet, it's up on Memrise, it's, I have apps, I have all kinds of things for you. It doesn't really matter if we get to all of them because you can access them from the website. But this is the newest one. So I wanted to make sure we had a few minutes to at least chat about that. So what I'm going to do is put us into breakout rooms and maybe spend 5 minutes talking about this particular resource, and then try and quickly go through some of the other ones with the remaining few minutes that we have left. Okay. My dog needs to get out of the room, so I'm just going to go away from the camera for just a minute. Come here, puppy. Hey, Gary, good to see you, man.
Hi, yeah, sorry, I was checking that the site was working, so I couldn't come.
No.
But that Uglish thing, I just can't, that's the first time I've seen that. That's amazing.
Isn't that cool?
How amazing is that? Yeah. It's funny, I've been kind of looking at that kind of thing, and it's like, oh, that's brilliant.
Well, it's very similar to what I developed for English Central, like probably 7-8 years ago, but that resource they took down for a couple of years because nobody was using it, and then I just found this Uglish thing. I was like, wow, this is cool because you can do it yourself. You don't have to buy a product. I mean, it's just a free resource.
Yeah, it's really amazing. I'll have to try to do something with Japanese of that.
Okay, hold on a second. You know what? Let me. I think there's a lot of people that are unassigned. Hold on a second. Let me.
Yeah, don't assign me because I missed a lot, so I'll just hang out here.
Okay, I'm sorry. I just noticed that there's a lot of people not assigned. So let me do that. Gary, I'm not going to assign you. You don't deserve to. Okay, let's see.
Robert, you're sorry, I don't know, Robert, I don't know what your family name is. All I can see is Robert R.
Yes.
I don't know if it's been announced to the hosts, but people can put PDFs on Eventzilla by sending them. So if you can tell that to presenters, if they have a PDF or something that they want to,
cool.
We can. Yeah. So yeah, there's an ask. I'm going to make it so that the presenters themselves can do it, but at the moment you have to send it to Charlie. So you can, anything that you want that it would go underneath the presentation. Here are PDFs. Here's a link, and so I can link to English to your NGSL thing. So all of that can go kind of a secondary stuff that's not part of the submission process, but gives like things like PDFs and so on and so forth. So I think most of the hosts were meant to know about this, but it's probably something that might not have been. I'll get on to Jose and Jenny about it. Anyway.
All right. No, absolutely. Sounds great.
Yeah,
Thanks for that. Thanks for the heads up. And let me jump into a room. I was just about to do that and I lost the link here. Hold on, let me do that. And where's my breakout link? Here it is. Okay, and now I'm gonna join. See ya. Okay.
Charlie, you're muted.
Yeah, I think I'm unmuted. I actually was just saying to myself, you saw my lips moving. I was saying, I think I'm muted is what I was saying, actually. It's yeah, it's funny. Okay, let me go back to share screen. Let me see, hold on a second. Let's see, I want to go to my PowerPoint. I think this will do it. Okay. Are we, whoops. It doesn't look like it's, let me do it again. I want to get to my PowerPoint. Okay, NGSL. Okay, no, that's not it. You guys see him? Yeah, you see my PowerPoint. Okay, so we're down to only like 7 or 8 minutes, and we're not going to get through all of these resources. But basically, the high level overview is that the NGSL project, we've developed a large number of online learning applications, including flashcard apps. Assessment and placement tools so that you know which part of the NGSL students are strong and weak at, some research tools and some text analysis tools. So we'll just go through a couple more slides and see what we can get through, and then we'll just stop the official presentation at 3. Let's see if I can get there. Okay. So what I want to, like what a really important thing to think about, once you have the word lists and the definitions, is you really need an assessment tool. And the reason assessment tools are so important is because students are going to come to you already knowing large chunks of the new general service list and large chunks of the other word lists. So you don't want to waste waste the students' time with them studying words they already know. So you need to find a way to sort of pinpoint where they're weak and so that they can study more efficiently just the unknown high frequency words that they have. And so to that effect, one of the things that was one of the first really strong resources that was developed for the new general service list and a new academic word list is known as the new general service list test and the new academic word list test, NGSLT and NAWLT. And these two resources were made by Tim Stokel. I think actually it's a C in his name there. I should probably change that before I forget. Okay, Tim Stokel and Phil Bennett. They've worked for years on these tests, and they've published a number of articles on them. I think they have pretty much the highest published reliability and validity statistics on any vocabulary test out there. So these are really solid vocabulary tests. And what you've got up there are this is just a screenshot of what the NGSL-T looks like and some of the data that you get from the other side of the test. And what you can see here is they've divided the NGSL into 5 frequency bands, 5 equally sized frequency bands of about 560 words each. So NGSL level 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Level 1 would be the highest frequency NGSL words. Level 5 would be the lowest frequency NGSL words. And what you can see there is results for one of my students. And you can see that their bands 1 through 3 is getting progressive. 1 through 4 is getting progressively lower, but then band 5, they actually know a lot of the words there. So it's kind of an odd pattern that seems to happen among a number of my students. But what this test helps us to see is that level 4 is where this student should probably start. They're weak at level 4 is about the 1800 to 2300 word level of the NGSL. These are all very, very important words that they should know every one of, but this student has a significant gap in their knowledge of NGSL 4. And the NGSL-T and NAWLT have been tied directly to vocabulary learning stacks in Quizlet, which is a free flashcard program. So if you go to my website, you can see the stacks that we've made for the NGSL. One version of the stack is, yes, go ahead. Was there a question? Oh, 5 minutes. Oh, so that was the 5. Okay, so one version of our Quizlet stack is connected directly to this test, 560 word bands, but we've also got Quizlet stacks in 100 word bands and 50 word bands if the more granular approach is good for you. We've also, got flashcard apps, free flashcard apps. One is called NGSL Builder. One is called Word Learner. There are links from my website to that as well. And on the Word Learner one, we also have it banded banded and 560 word bands. So the Word Learner app as well as Quizlet works pretty well together with this test. And actually, this is, actually, I'm glad we could get to this slide, because this is, I was talking with, we were having some fun on Facebook last night, and Tim made, I posted this cartoon, this political cartoon about the 2020 word of the year, tantrum, instead of tantrum. And I thought this was a pretty funny cartoon, but Tim suggested that I should add this to the NGSL. So I told him I would put this in my presentation today. But it's not going in the NGSL, but I thought it was cute. But in the Word Learner app, we also have some placement tests and some achievement tests that you can use as well. So this is another place you can go for, for the testing function. We're just at a moment from 3 o'clock. So what I'll just quickly mention to you is that for the learning tools, we do have Quizlet. It's on Quizlet. Memorize is another free flashcard program, and it's up there as well. I use Kahoot a lot, which is a very nice interactive sort of quiz game that you can do with vocabulary words. The single list flashcard apps are like my NGSL Builder, NAWL Builder. The multi-list app is called Word Learner. Rob Waring and I have also made a free extensive reading website known as ER Central, ER standing for extensive reading. So if you look for that. We also have several analytical tools. One is called OGTE, the Online Graded Text Editor. This is a tool that allows you to look at the difficulty of texts that you want to use with your students in terms of coverage by the NGSL or by any of my other word lists. But it also allows you to simplify those texts so that they're closer to your students' level. So the OGTE is a very easy to use and very good tool for bringing the level of reading materials and listening materials to the level of your students. The other tools, one is made by Tom Cobb called Vocab Profile, and another one by Lawrence Anthony is called Antword Profile. They both have very similar functions to OGTE, and they're both excellent tools. So our word lists are on those tools as well, but we wanted to make both Vocab Profile and Antword Profile are kind of more geared towards the needs of researchers. And we thought that it might be a little bit difficult for classroom teachers. So the OGTE tool is more, it does the same thing that Vocab Profile and Antword Profile does, but it's more for the needs of teachers. I think the learning curve is a little bit easier. So anyhow, that's the NGSL project in a nutshell. That's all of the three columns on the right are all of the free online tools that we've made. And I hope that this short 90-minute session, gave you a couple of new ideas, things that you can use in the classroom. And that's the purpose of the project, is to sort of, make tools that can help teachers do their job better. So thank you for your time. And I think we can probably take a couple of questions before closing up the session. Thank you very much. And I'll stop the share now.
All right. Well, yeah, and before we just open up for questions, let's just give a quick round of applause. So I'll ask you all to unmute, or you can use your reaction. So, okay. Applause. Thank you. It's a great presentation.
Charlie, one question that I saw in the chat that
yeah, I didn't actually look at the chat. Thanks.
That I think I partially answered, but I don't know if I answered it correctly. Was the question was if there were ready-able Moodle quizzes, and my assumption was that you could probably export out of Quizlet into Moodle, but I don't think there are any ready-made for Moodle.
Oh, I don't use Moodle that much myself, so I'm not sure about how that would work, but I assume there's a way to do it.
Sorry, Dr. Browne, if I can just jump in, we've actually created those this semester down in Kyushu at Sojo University. We've used the NGSL-T created by Phil Bennett and Tim Stokel as Moodle quizzes, which could be exported into any other set. So maybe.
Well, and that's fantastic. And you know, if it seems like that resource that you've made, the Moodle resource you just described, if you think that that would be useful to other teachers, let's
Definitely.
you know, like chat with me afterwards, you know, send me an email or something like that, and I'll see what I can do to get it up on the website. I mean, that's really what I've tried really hard to support Phil and Tim's work and everybody else who's making NGSL resources. You know, we're just trying, you know, like I'm trying to make the website the one-stop shopping, so that anybody who's made something that's utilizing the word list, so that other people who are, you know, might be able to benefit from it. So that sounds
I'll
like
definitely reach out to you afterwards.
that sounds great. That sounds really good. Thanks. Questions or comments or anything else? I mean, we're just a little bit over. I'm fine. I think your next session is not till 3:30, so we can probably stick around for a couple of minutes. But don't feel bad if you have to cut out here, because we're just a little bit past. I'll stick around. Okay, hold on a second. We've got a hold on a second.
If you have any questions, you can write them down on the chat, or at this point, you can unmute yourself as well to ask a question.
Okay. Well,
I have many questions, but I wanted to give other people the opportunity to ask them
Oh
first.
no, go ahead. Go ahead.
Sir, can you post your email in the chat for correspondence?
Oh, my email. Sure. Let me hold on a second. I'll do that right now.
Yeah, I dropped the first slide of the presentation in there. It has it on there, but it doesn't have it as text. You'd have to copy it yourself.
As a matter of fact, let me, instead of trying to type this whole thing out, let me go to the top page of my, actually what I do, hold on just a second. I'm going to go to the first slide, because that has my email and it also has links.
Yeah, that first slide's already shared. It's in there. It's the 2/20/11/20. It's a screenshot I took of your first slide.
What? Excellent. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy and paste, because there's links there too. So let me do the so right now what I've just done is I've copied and pasted the 4 or 5 resources I've talked about into there as live links, and now my email as well, so you don't have to type it out again. Okay, 1 2 3 4 5. Okay, there you go. And the email is the last one. Good. And who was it that had a question or questions?
I did, but as I said, I wanted to give other people the opportunity to say things first.
Charlie, did that go out to everybody, or did that go out as a private chat to someone?
Oh, geez.
I think that's a private chat because I can't see anything.
No, you know what? Somebody wrote me something privately, and I accidentally hit the reply to that instead of to everyone.
Something nice, I hope.
Yeah. No, they were complaining about you, Steve. There we go. Okay, so now you got it right.
Oh, perfect.
Thank you for that. Good grief. Thank you for that. Did I just say good grief? This is a Charlie Brown day.
You did.
That's pretty funny.
That's kind of meta.
Okay.
Well, if you have lots of questions, or if people want to continue, we do have the Hangouts Zoom session that's going on at all times. I can post that on. Within there's 50 Hangout rooms. There's a host that can. Yeah,
there's a link right now at the bottom in the chat. So what you want? Shall we do that? Shall we move to the Hangouts and continue the conversation there? If anybody wants to talk.
I would like to do that. I'm free for a little bit longer.
Okay. So thank you again. Thank you very much, everybody, for coming. And, it was a little bit rushed. I always prepare a little bit more than we have time for. But, Zoom, doing a session in Zoom is a little bit, it's a little bit different than doing live. So developing that sense of timing. Sorry about that. But hopefully you got some new ideas and some resources and tools that you can use in your classroom. And once again, thank you very much for everybody for coming.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Congratulations.
And whoever, I think we shouldn't end the session until people have a chance to actually click on the Zoom link, right? the Hangout Zoom link. Okay, there it is.
Right, it's a
It's
link.
also available on the
into
live
Eventbrite.
schedule.
Yeah, it is.
So
but
you can
it-
just click on the live schedule.
Okay, everybody. Thanks. I'll see you over there. Bye-bye.
Thanks.
You.
Mm.
Yeah, Charlie, if you can make me host before you go.
Let's hold on a second.
I'm not sure if it might automatically happen, but
Yeah, I think I assign and leave.
okay, perfect. So this is going to become a new.
Just click stop recording.